So I want to talk about these phases where I feel like I finally have access to my life again and things just start working. I wake up and I actually feel like I'm somewhat rested. I eat and I actually feel like doing it. I can go outside, I can go to the gym, I can talk to people without immense discomfort. I can think a bit further ahead than just the next couple of hours. I don't need as much medication, don't need as much accommodation, and everything just feels simpler, easier. Getting through another random day doesn't feel like dragging yourself through glass, basically. So it's not forced. That's an important point. I'm not suddenly more disciplined in those moments. I'm not, not trying harder necessarily. I'm not doing anything differently in my routine necessarily. It just works. I'm having an easier time actually. Like my body and my brain stop fighting each other just for a little bit and actually act, like they want to do this being alive thing. And every time that happens, there's this part of me that immediately goes, okay, this is it. This is my chance to, finally stabilize. Now is my chance to like build a structure that lets me maintain a better baseline. Now I can build something on top of this. Now I can be consistent and actually live like I want to live. I can take care of myself and, maybe not fall into this pit again. And then at some point it inevitably starts shifting again. And it's usually subtle at first that you almost don't want to acknowledge it or don't really even know how to react to it. It's like you just feel a bit more tired, a bit more on edge, right? You carry a higher like baseline level of irritation, exhaustion, sensory issues. And I can tell that while I'm still able to do stuff, I have to kind of push myself further than what I'm comfortable with. I'm still at work, right? I still need to eat. I still need to do chores, whatever it is. So I try to rest properly and balance that with the things that I need to do, the things that I want to do, and the things that I'm supposed to do in order to take care of my physical and mental health to have this happen less in the first place. And then it becomes a game of trying to react differently than last time. Maybe I need more rest. Maybe I need to do, short daily walks instead of big walks with more, with a bigger breaks between them. Maybe now that spring is here, the sun and the daylight will help me. And you just try to pull whatever levers you have to somehow get a different outcome than last time. And I have accommodated myself so much the last years already, and it seems like it's still not enough. Because then at some point it just fully flips, and there's nothing you can do about it now. It's a cycle that seemingly you don't control. You just influence it slightly with your choices while you're riding it out. And well, then you're in the downward spiral, right? Exercising is nothing but exhausting. You eat, but you taste nothing. You still get up, but you feel so damn exhausted. And, not just like, oh, I'm so tired and I need like a second coffee. I mean, so exhausted that you cannot function and manage your daily life. And your whole your whole system is so dysregulated that you just don't have any capacity for stress, physically or mentally. That's the biggest thing, because you can't push through that. It's just like trying to stand on a broken leg, you know what I mean? You're just making things worse by ignoring those signals. So you try to rest, but instead of good quality sleep, you get like 14-hour comas, and somehow you feel even more exhausted afterwards, right? But I know, and you might, oh, that's so much sleep. Maybe that's too much sleep. And yeah, I've thought about all these things already, right? And then you try sleeping a moderate amount or a normal amount, and you basically just you don't get a different outcome anyway. You're hungry, but eating makes you feel sick. So you try to stick to the plan, still eat healthy, go for your walks and do the things that are supposed to help. But it feels like nothing does anything anyway. Nothing feels rewarding. Nothing feels like it lands anywhere. And it's like everything just gets swallowed before it even reaches you. And all you get is just more fatigue from the effort it took to get up and do all those things. And so you try to reset and you tell yourself, okay, this is just a phase. My body needs rest. I'll just, take a step back and then I'll come back to it properly. But instead of coming back, of course, you just slowly wither and lose yourself again. And when I say lose yourself again, I mean like, well, the things that you're trying to build, right? Your habits, your projects, your, going after a career, whatever you may, whatever gives your life meaning in this realm, you just lose the ability to engage with all of that. And not just physically, but also like things that felt real and important a week ago suddenly just feel pointless and distant, and you don't feel, you can't access those feelings and that passion anymore. You can't access that. You just can't think straight either. You can just wait, lay there again and just wait again for days or weeks or however long until you can start feeling like all this matters again. And probably you still need to, get up regardless and push through going to work and push through other social obligations and push through taking care of yourselves. And that in itself is just such a burden then on your mental health as well, because you're basically forced to do things that you don't want to do and you can't do without harming yourself, basically. And that's just also taking a huge toll on yourself then, because you're basically stuck in that situation where you can't afford the downtime and the rest that you would need to be better. So it just becomes this endless cycle with seemingly no way out. And I've been in that loop for as long as I can remember. And that's the part that's hard to explain to people, because this isn't some recent thing that started with burnout or whatever. This has always been there in some form. The only difference is that now I can actually see it while it's happening. I can predict the direction it's going. I can put words to it now. But the point of me sharing my experience is this does not happen because I lose motivation, but because I literally lose the capacity, and that I am in fact disabled by a disability. But even knowing this doesn't really change the experience itself. It just means that I'm aware of it now while it's unfolding in front of me still. And I think that a lot of us still hold on to this story that if you just do the right things consistently, take care of yourself, build discipline, push through when it gets a little hard, then things will always move in the right direction. And that it's a personal failure if you're not successful in whatever context. Because I have had those phases where from the outside to, a stranger, it may be looking exactly like that is working, right? I go to the gym, I eat well, I show up, I do all the things that you're supposed to do, and it looks like, I finally got my shit together when I didn't before. But it doesn't feel like that from the inside. It feels like I just have access to something during those phases that I don't have the rest of the time. Like there's just more space in my system, more energy, less friction, less, just more, capacity. And because of that, all of those behaviors suddenly become possible again. It's a matter of accessing that capacity again, not a matter of lack of focus or a lack of structure or lack of commitment. Like I know exactly what I want to do and what I need to do. I just literally can't when my physiology says we can't. And then when that space disappears again and the exact same things that felt beneficial and sustainable just a week ago suddenly come with a cost that I cannot pay anymore again. And that's where this whole, just try harder thing starts to feel completely disconnected from reality to me, because it assumes that everyone is operating with the same baseline. Like it's just a matter of effort and whether you're willing to push yourself enough. But this is such an oversimplification, because to me, I'm always pushing myself, to some extent. It's like when I have a good phase, it's not that I've said that, but it's not that it's easy. It's just that the amount of discomfort I can handle is low enough to make it possible for me to do the things that I want and need to do, right? The trade-off becomes worth it, but it's never easy. It never comes without paying some sort of price, right? With limited nervous system capacity, with such a small capacity for stress, with such a small capacity for outside stimulation. It's just a completely wrong measuring stick. I don't know if that applies to everyone, because I only hear other neurodivergent people talk about this. But this is what it feels like to me. It feels like there are periods where my system can actually handle life with the trade-offs that I mentioned, but I can't do it. I can't participate. And during those periods, I can appear like a functional person, which is important because that's where all your freaking social credit lies in this world, right? We say we should accommodate people who are different, but we sadly don't really do that. Some people do, the right people do, the people you should hold close in your life to, but unfortunately, we engage in this world with a lot of people that we don't, we most of us don't only surround ourselves or have the choice to be surrounded with people that like us and people that understand us, right? So that's when that's an additional problem, right? So I can, and in a way, I need to appear like a functional person, and then there are periods where that capacity just drops and vanishes. And no amount of trying harder changes the fact that everything suddenly takes more of me that I can put back in. And especially with ADHD and autism, that baseline just isn't stable. And people will try to double down on this still and say things like, someone may argue things like, it's normal that you can't stick to anything because, habit takes whatever, 60 days or however long to build a habit. And then it's so easy. So you just always like give up before that, and you're not a special snowflake. You're just not disciplined enough, and you just need to actually try, right? Or something similar to that. This is what I'm talking about, right? It's an oversimplification, and it does not just apply like that, right? I have held certain routines for years at a time, where, for example, even at my lowest of lows, I will still make it to the gym, even if it's just once every 10 days, because I know it is vital to keep moving and fight that, physical atrophy and fight the depression from being isolated and non-functional. But in a good phase, I'll go roughly, twice a week. And I have been doing this for basically a decade. So again, it's a loss of capacity that takes away your ability to engage with and maintain your life and the things inside your life. And when my system drops below that certain point, it's not a choice between effort and no effort. I'm just trying to get through my day without, completely burning myself out even further again. And you have to keep in mind that burning yourself out like that, it can end up in you, it can have real negative consequences, losing your income, losing relationships. Like it has real lasting negative consequences in every part of your life. And of course, obviously, choices matter. I hopefully made that very clear. But again, it's just not as simple as that. The range of what you can do consistently, what you can sustain, what you can recover from, that depends on many things. And a lot of them are factors that you don't just decide. And so to this day, I am working on undoing the expectations that I have on myself and that others have on me, being raised undiagnosed and basically treated like my disability is not real, or that I'm making it up or exaggerating it, etc. And I could never, it's very hard to build trust in yourself, to defend yourself, to fend for yourself when you don't even know what exactly it is that you're defending, you know what I mean? And so, well, that's another problem stacked on top of that. Also, I'm aware that cyclical phases are part of life, because I'm saying this because certain people will gaslight you and say, that's normal and everybody goes through these phases. Everyone's a little autistic, whatever, which, yes, I don't think that's a thing. And none of these experiences are unique to me, right? It's the intensity of these human traits that are just so much higher that it becomes, well, disabling, right? I don't think we're supposed to be oscillating between being functional under meaningful discomfort or total despair and loss of capability, right? And that's the two options you can exist under. I don't think that's right. And if you recognize yourself in that pattern, in that constant cycle of things working for a bit and then slipping away again and not really knowing how to stabilize it long term, then I don't think that's a work ethic problem. And I don't think that's something you fix by just trying harder or punishing yourself.